This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
First the rain, now the wind. Good afternoon. Welcome to the broadcast. Yeah, it's going to be a hold on to your hat sort of Halloween night. The National Weather Service issuing wind advisories right through early tomorrow. Trick-or-treaters, please take note. Watch for flying debris, falling tree limbs, even down power lines. Those winds could gust to near 50 miles per hour at times. Kevin Williams has that weekend forecast on the way. The government shutdown now officially a month old, and the midnight witching hour is fast approaching. SNAP benefits for over 40 million Americans expire at midnight. Vice President J.D. Vance.
This is something that every single American, Democrat or Republican or independent, should be able to agree on. Open the government. Stop this craziness and open the government.
Flight delays are starting to pile up as more unpaid airport workers call in sick because they're not getting a paycheck right now. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy.
A lot of our people can go through the miss of one paycheck, and it's hard for them, but a lot of them can get through it. None of them can get through two paychecks.
President Trump is calling on Senate Republicans to scrap the filibuster so they can bypass Democrats and reopen the government, employ the so-called nuclear option. Democrats are refusing to budge until they get assurances on health care subsidies. At least 50 deaths now are now blamed on Hurricane Melissa in the Caribbean. The majority of those are in Haiti. Officials stress the death toll will rise as search and rescue efforts continue in Haiti, the Dominican Republic, as well as Jamaica and Cuba. The genocide of Christians continues in Nigeria.
This has been going on since 2009. There's in between 50,000 and 100,000 Christians have been murdered. Just this year, 7,000 alone. That's 35 a day.
West Virginia Congressman Riley Moore says claims that land disputes are fueling this are simply false.
It is 5-1 Christians being killed as opposed to other religions in Nigeria right now. This is a genocide that's happening, and we have to stand up and we have to speak out to stop this.
He says Boko Haram terrorists are killing Christians simply because they are Christians in Nigeria. The Justice Department says it will investigate donations to Black Lives Matter. Here's legal analyst Thane Rosenbaum.
The Black Lives Matter movement is different from the Black Lives Matter Foundation, which is a registered not-for-profit organization that raised tens of millions of dollars from donors who receive tax deductions. The U.S. Attorney's Office, no doubt, is interested in the $6 million that was spent on a private residence in California.
Attorney General Pam Bondi investigating the alleged misuse of $90 million in donations to Black Lives Matter. This probe focuses on the handling of funds after the murder of George Floyd in 2020. Call him plain old Andrew Mountbatten Windsor from now on. King Charles III has stripped his younger brother Andrew of his princely title. It's because of Andrew Windsor's ties to Jeffrey Epstein, the accused sex trafficker who committed suicide in 2019. Well, tonight's the night the Toronto Blue Jays can capture their first World Series title in over 30 years.
After splitting 2 in Toronto and taking 2 of 3 in LA, the Blue Jays are on the brink of celebrating a world championship. They'll be hosting the Dodgers in Game 6 tonight. Jays skipper John Schneider will be giving the ball to Kevin Gossman.
You love it. You love it every time, whether it's in spring training or whether it's in the World Series. You know, we know that it's going to be another tough arm.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto counters for LA. Dodgers skipper Dave Roberts.
Guys have got to do their jobs. Everyone's got to do their job. And so right now we're at elimination and we've got to kind of wipe the slate clean and find a way to win Game 6.
First pitch is set for 8 Eastern.
That's sports reporter Erica Herskowitz. And still to come on the Noon Report for a Friday, New York state of emergency, dads defending daughters, and pumpkins smashing in Penfield.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. Some bluster, chill, and damp conditions will carry us into tonight for most of the region, with some improvement coming, though, during the weekend. Forecast details are up in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll see you then. In the meantime, let's check the stories making news across New York and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania Representative Clint Owlett is defending his dad's Defending Daughters bill. The Northern Tier Republican wants to ban trans athletes from girls' sports and believes most in the Commonwealth support him in this endeavor. I spoke with Owlett earlier today. Here's some of that conversation. You mentioned this is an 80-20 issue where 80% of the people in Pennsylvania want this, only 20% are opposed. If that's the case, I would think it would be to the political advantage of House Democrats to approve this legislation. Why are they so adamant not to do this?
I believe that Governor Shapiro does not want them to do this because he can kind of waffle on this idea and avoid it because he knows it's politically a problem for him. But if they just continue to bury this and pass it around from committee to committee, it protects the governor from having to actually engage on this, which is sad because when it passed in the Senate, it passed with Republicans and Democrats supporting it. And that's exactly what would happen if this actually came up for a vote in the House. But the games that they're playing, the ping pong that they're playing with this bill, passing it from committee to committee, at some point this bill will probably end up in the Fish and Game Committee because they just want to avoid this at all costs because they know the awkward position this would put the governor in to actually have to take a stance on that. And that's just sad. And stop calling us extremists for wanting to protect our daughters. It's the right thing to do. It's a loving thing to do, and we're not going to give up. It's time to get off the bench.
I've seen studies that show as many as 70 female athletes the past 5 years in Pennsylvania have lost medals or scholarships because of the trans influence in girls' sports. How big of a problem is it in the Keystone State?
Yeah, we do know that this is happening in Pennsylvania, and your numbers are right. Our daughters have lost medals, have lost positions on teams, and have been asked to allow biological male to take their spot. That is unacceptable. So when people say that this isn't happening and this isn't a big issue, this absolutely is a big issue. And we really do appreciate President Trump's leadership on this. And the reality is what we're trying to do is we want to make sure that there is a law on the books in Pennsylvania that will forever protect our daughters and allow them to have a fair shot to play and not allow a biological male to take the spot from them off a team. And that's what we're fighting for.
That's Pennsylvania Representative Clint Owlett talking to Family Life News today about his dad's Defending Daughters legislation. New York Governor Kathy Hochul's declared a state of emergency as the government shutdown threatens food assistance for nearly 3 million New Yorkers. The state is stepping in with $65 million in emergency aid. That money will provide 40 million meals and strengthen food banks all across the state. Pennsylvania public schools are taking steps to ensure needy students don't go hungry during the government shutdown. Here's Johnstown Superintendent Amy Arcurio.
When the struggle comes, and it will come for a lot of people, they know where to turn to provide meals for their children. It's really amazing that we're sitting here talking about children being hungry in our country.
Experts say for a lot of students, school breakfast and lunch is the only meal they get, and without SNAP benefits, the number of hungry students will increase. A healthy debate is underway in PA on the need for massive data processing centers to accommodate the emerging artificial intelligence industry. Lawmakers love the potential for jobs and tax revenue, but many Pennsylvania residents say, not in my backyard.
This is emotional. You are affecting the quality of life of everybody in this room.
It does not serve the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents.
And it's time that our township protects the citizens.
Eventually, the pain will overcome that fear. I don't want this in my backyard.
The Trump administration's pledged $90 billion to build AI power plants and data centers all over Pennsylvania. U.S. Senator Dave McCormick.
We're in the middle of something much bigger than the Industrial Revolution. It's like a massive change. And change and disruption is very scary. And I think what we have to show people is that the benefits far exceed those challenges.
Residents fear massive AI power plants will decrease property values, increase utility costs, and cause traffic and noise pollution. Rock salt supplies are in good shape for the coming winter. You might remember there was a shortage last year caused by supply chain problems. Clarence, New York Highway Superintendent Jamie Dussing.
We're good to go. Our barn is full, and we're just waiting on the weather to turn. The trucks and the equipment will be ready to go, as well as the employees. So we're in good shape.
Dussing says they should have enough snowplow operators as well to deal with whatever Old Man Winter dishes out in the coming months. Erie County, New York Sheriff John Garcia denies a cover-up in the reckless driving case of his chief of narcotics, DJ Granville. That cop was driving a county-owned vehicle back in April of last year when he crashed into a half dozen other vehicles on the west side of Buffalo.
The people of Erie County love their law enforcement agencies. We have a great relationship in all the communities that we cover, and it's been outstanding.
No sobriety tests were conducted during that hit and run last year. Officer Granville later admitted he was on medication for anxiety and depression at the time of the accident. Customers of 2 Pennsylvania weight loss clinics were allegedly given drugs meant for cows. How'd that happen? Family Life's Brian Query.
Federal investigators say 45-year-old Nicole Millen, who is not a licensed medical provider, gave clients the veterinary drug Corulon at her businesses, Renew Medical and Weight Loss and Choice Restorative Medicine, both in Pittsburgh. Court documents say the drug was placed in unlabeled syringes and handed out to weight loss customers between February of 2022 and May of 2023. Prosecutors allege Millen bought the drug from an Illinois supplier and failed to label it as for animal use only. She's charged with causing a drug to be misbranded after shipment in interstate commerce, a misdemeanor that carries up to a year in prison and a $100,000 fine. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you, Brian. The parents of a 4-year-old have been arrested in western New York after that child was found walking in traffic on the New York State Thruway in Silver Creek. Child Protective Services was making an unannounced visit to the parents' home when they noticed the child was not there. A motorist who spotted that child on the interstate called 911 and stayed with the child until help arrived. Well, it'll be a cold and windy night for those trick-or-treaters tonight. Reporter Jeff Manasso has some safety tips to keep in mind while collecting candy in your neighborhood.
If your little ones are trick-or-treating at nighttime, experts say bring a flashlight, a glow stick, or reflective materials. And to make sure trick-or-treaters can see outside their costumes.
Because if kids can't see it across the street, they're very excited about what's going on. They're liable to jump to it.
Safety expert Don Evans suggests trick-or-treaters always use sidewalks, as studies confirm that people, especially children, are significantly more likely to be struck by a car on Halloween than any other night of the year.
This is the first time in over a decade that Halloween has fallen on a Friday. Wickham Farms in Penfield, New York, will hold its annual Pumpkin Destruction Weekend from 10 to 4 tomorrow and Sunday. That farm is inviting families to show up and give any leftover pumpkins a proper send-off. They've set up a variety of creative pumpkin smashing stations. The highlight of this weekend will be the Great Pumpkin Drop on Saturday. That features a large pumpkin being lifted high above the farm and then dropped. Who doesn't love to see smashing pumpkins? Sports is next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Welcome back, Lamar Jackson. Good afternoon. I'm Randy Snavely. Bob, after missing 3 games, Jackson was on target last night. He threw 4 touchdown passes as the Ravens dominated the Dolphins 28-6. Derrick Henry also rushed for 119 yards. Baltimore is trying to climb its way back into playoff contention. They now have a 3-5 record. On the ice, Buffalo fell in overtime to Boston 4-3. The Bruins won it just 2 minutes into the OT period, and that goal squelched a Sabres comeback after Buffalo got goals from Josh Doan and Alex Tuck in the third to tie the game up. The Rangers, they did come back from a 2-goal deficit in the third period, and they beat the Oilers in overtime. JT Miller scored the game winner to help the Blue Shirts to a 4-3 victory. The Islanders got stomped on by Carolina 6-2. Canes up 3-0 just 10 minutes into the contest, and they never looked back. The Penguins lit the lamp 3 times in the third period to break a tie and pull away from Minnesota, winning it 4-1. Brian Russ, Ben Kindle, Anthony Martha, and Ryan Shea all lit the lamp for Pittsburgh. And in Philly, Trevor Zegras scored 2 times and added an assist as the Flyers skated past the Predators 4-1. Zegras has at least 1 point in all of Philadelphia's 7 home games this season, where they are 6-1. Also picking up wins last night, the Senators, Lightning, Canucks, Jets, Sharks, and Red Wings. And Game 6 of the World Series gets underway tonight in Toronto. The Blue Jays just a win away from winning the Fall Classic for the first time in over 3 decades. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Still to come on the Noon Report. Windy weather for those trick-or-treaters. The Capital Connection crew going to sound off on all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg. And at the end of the broadcast, don't forget to fall back this weekend. We've got a brief history of time change coming up after this.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. Every autumn in a sort of seasonal ritual, the leaves start turning colors, the air turns chilly, and Christians argue over whether to celebrate Halloween. Well, I've never been a huge fan of the dark, sketchy costumes, and I'm talking about what adults wear these days. There's a whole history to this day that's unknown to most people. In fact, there's an even more amazing history behind tomorrow, All Saints Day. Back in 2007, Chuck Colson described that history in a Breakpoint commentary that he called Honoring the Witnesses. Here's Chuck Colson.
It's Halloween again, and to be frank, I really don't look forward to talking about it on Breakpoint every year. At best, Halloween has become an excuse to ask total strangers for candy. At worst, it's a celebration of the mindless paganism our ancestors wisely turned their backs on. So this year, I'd like to turn your attention to the often overlooked celebration that Halloween calls to mind. In case you've missed it before, the name Halloween is a shortening of All Hallows Eve and signifies the night before All Saints Day. For centuries on All Saints Day, the church celebrated the lives of Christians who went before us. And rightly so. We can learn so much from those whom the author of Hebrews calls that great cloud of witnesses. The tradition of remembering the church triumphant dates back to the time of the first Christian martyrs. When soldiers of Marcus Aurelius Verus came to arrest Polycarp, a beloved church leader, Polycarp greeted them kindly. According to the 3rd century historian Eusebius, Polycarp ordered a table to be laid for them immediately, invited them to eat as much as they liked, asking in return a single hour in which he could pray. When Polycarp later stood in the Colosseum, accused and surrounded by the jeering crowds, the governor pressed him to recant his faith. Instead, this man, who himself had been discipled by the Apostle John, said this: "For 86 years I have been Christ's servant, and he has never done me wrong. How can I blaspheme my king who saved me?" As they were preparing to burn him alive, Polycarp offered up prayers of faith and praise. In the years following Polycarp's death, Christians would gather annually to take communion beside his grave. There they would remember his brave witness and take courage from his example. As the years passed, the day shifted in focusing from remembering Polycarp to honoring all martyrs. By the 7th century, the church created a holiday to honor all of God's saints, heroes of the faith. One of my favorite heroes was a woman named Monica, who lived during the 4th century. She would never face flames or jeering crowds as did Polycarp, but she did face testing. That testing came in the form of her own longing for the return of her prodigal son, Augustine. His licentious lifestyle made this Christian mother weep. Later, when Augustine, who is now known as one of the foremost theologians of Christianity and scholars of Western civilization, did come to Christ, he wrote this prayer: "My mother, your faithful servant, wept to you for me, shedding more tears for my spiritual death than others shed for the bodily death of a son." You heard her. I could tell you story after story like this, from Justin Martyr to Martin Luther to Amy Carmichael, but let me encourage you to do something this All Saints Day. Take the lead in your church to honor the great saints who set examples for us. Reacquaint your children with Halloween's Christian origins. Research together and talk about the lives of Christian heroes. Sure, go ahead and let the kids dress up like Batman and hit up your neighbors for candy. But when the hoopla of modern Halloween is over, encourage your kids to imitate some real heroes, not in what they put on, but in how they live their lives. For Breakpoint, this is Chuck Colson in Washington.
That was Chuck Colson from October the 31st, 2007, describing the rich history behind All Saints Day. For more resources to live like a Christian in this cultural moment, go to colsoncenter.org. I'm John Stonestreet.
Thank you, John. Outside we go, Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast. It will be chilly and blustery this afternoon into tonight with plenty of clouds and some showers. Temperatures this afternoon in the 40s and near 50, dropping into the 30s and near 40 tonight. Tomorrow, clouds, a few breaks of sun, a couple of scattered showers, still a chill, mid-40s to low 50s. Sunday, clouds and some sun at times with high temperatures in the lower 50s.
Thank you, Kevin. It is Friday, folks. Congratulations. You made it the 31st of October, and this is the Noon Report on Family Life. This is Capital Connection. Fridays during the Noon Report, we give you direct connection to all that's happening in Albany and Harrisburg with the experts on the issues at the state capitals. They are Jason McGuire with New York Families and Michael Geer with the Pennsylvania Family Institute. Michael, I want to start with you. Election day is drawing nigh. I thought it was interesting. The head of the DNC said that the Pennsylvania Supreme Court retention elections are among the most significant votes that will be cast anywhere in America on Tuesday. Why is this such a big deal in the Keystone State?
It's not surprising that the Democratic National Committee is saying that, especially given how friendly these three Pennsylvania Supreme Court justices that are up for retention votes, they've been very friendly to the Democratic cause. With the biggest issue is redistricting. They have gerrymandered districts to give more seats to Democrats in Congress in the past, but also the abortion industry is backing these candidates, these justices, for retention. More than $10 million is reportedly being spent on this election, so you understand why it's getting so much attention.
Yeah, Jason, I'll ask you the same of the New York City mayor's race. Obviously, it only affects those in the Big Apple, but is Zohran Mamdani the face of the Democratic Party going forward? Why do people of faith especially need to be paying attention to what's going on in New York City, and why does it matter so much that even in an off year, we take part on Tuesday and cast a ballot?
Yeah, I'll tell you that should the Democratic Socialist Zohran Mamdani be elected in that New York City mayoral race, it will have an impact on state policy in Albany. The influence of the mayor's race there will help the rise of democratic socialism in the state capital. So it does have an impact. But, really, even these off-year elections, so-called local races, those are the issues that really hit home. What happens to your town, your village, your local justices, your state Supreme Court, all of those races have a direct impact on your life. And so believers do want to be involved, because if we're not making that choice, someone else will be.
Yeah, if you don't vote, you can't complain. I've always said that. So make sure you take part on Tuesday. Michael, a number of Pennsylvania politicians are standing up in support of the Dads Defending Daughters Act, real similar to the Fairness in Women's Sports Act and what it would accomplish, banning biological boys and girls sports. Why is this legislation necessary in Pennsylvania?
Well, I want to give first a shout out to Representative Clint Owlett from Tioga and Bradford counties, and others, including Jonathan Fritz and Joe Ham, who took part in a press conference this week to advance this legislation to try to get a vote. The House Democrats have been steadfastly against this legislation. You wonder why they are, because it's an 80% issue for the people of Pennsylvania, people nationally, to say that there should be fairness in girls' sports. It is important because, in spite of what the Trump administration has done, the guidance that they're providing, there are still school districts in Pennsylvania that are not towing the line, and we need to put into law law the protection for fairness in girls' sports and also to protect locker room and bathroom privacy.
Yeah. Well, I know it's a long way off yet, Jason, the 2026 gubernatorial race, but there was a poll out recently that I thought was kind of interesting. The Manhattan Institute says Elise Stefanik is now ahead of Kathy Hochul, just a point ahead, 43 to 42%. But similar polls back in the summer had Hochul up big time in this race. You're pretty confident that Stefanik is going to jump in. 4 years ago, we were saying the same thing about Lee Zeldin, that was going to be real close, but Hochul ended up winning that one. Do you think hypothetical Hochul-Stefanik matchup will be much closer than the one 4 years ago in New York?
I do. I think it's going to be a very close race. If you remember, Representative Zeldin lost that race by about 6 points, and based on some polling we're looking at, internally the Stefanik campaign had them at within 5 points, and now this Manhattan Institute has Representative Stefanik up 1 point. If she's beginning from that position, I don't suspect it will be this easy all along the way. It's going to be a tough race. Yeah. But I do think that there's a narrowing that is happening here as people are waking up to what's happening in our state.
Yep. Boxing great Mike Tyson was making the rounds, pun intended, Michael, in Harrisburg this week, trying to make Pennsylvania the 25th state to legalize adult use recreational marijuana. Iron Mike, as they call him, says 500,000 jobs could result from pot in Pennsylvania. Why is he so interested in this issue, and could he influence enough lawmakers to make this happen?
Well, first of all, I'll just say that Dan Bartkowiak from our team and some others were up there observing Mike Tyson as he was making the rounds there, meeting and doing selfies with legislators and things. And he was clearly high. He needed to be helped up the stairway and those sorts of things. He has an addiction to marijuana to the tune of about $40,000 a month.
Wow.
Is what he's using. But in addition to that, he stands to make gobs of money. His company called Tyson 2.0 is set to make about $75 million in marijuana sales in this year alone. So money is behind it. Money is why there are so many lobbyists in Harrisburg pushing for this. It's going to take the people of Pennsylvania, those listening to this, to call their legislators to deliver a knockout blow to this proposal to legalize commercial sale of marijuana in Pennsylvania.
We're not talking about Grandpa's marijuana either. This ain't the pot they smoked at Woodstock, Jason. This is high-potency marijuana that is literally killing kids. Years ago, and this is a study that came out, I'd love to get your thoughts, Jay. Years ago, it was thought that cigarette smoking was a gateway drug to marijuana use. Now, ironically enough, research shows marijuana use is actually a gateway drug to cigarette smoking. How about that? Your thoughts?
Yeah, recently I've been watching the numbers, and the state has been reporting that nicotine use cigarettes smoking among teenagers has been at a historic low. But I think we're about to see some of those things reversed. We are now sending the message that it is okay to smoke certain kinds of products. In this case, the state is saying, hey, it's fine if you smoke pot, just don't smoke nicotine. That's an inconsistent message, and as we often say, the only consistent worldview is a biblical worldview. So when government sends those mixed messages, well, our teens are going to pick up on that, and I think it will have an impact on their behaviors.
Profits ahead of public safety. When will they wake up? We'll see. Michael, you've got an event coming up the day after Election Day, Wednesday, November 5th. It's going to happen in Pittsburgh. You're talking about a significant, probably not being reported enough, but this is a significant abortion case out of Allegheny County. What's at stake here?
Yeah, so we started the call here this morning, or the discussion this morning, talking about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court retention races. And this case directly relates to that because the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has before it a case dealing with expanding abortion and requiring taxpayer funding of abortion, which is against the law in Pennsylvania right now. The Supreme Court was favorable towards that case called Allegheny Reproductive. They've sent it to the Commonwealth Court. They're going to have this hearing and court case there on November 5th, and then we're holding a prayer gathering of pastors and others there in Pittsburgh to help pray for a good result in this case.
Gotcha. Again, that's Wednesday, November 5th. And the day after that, Jason, November 6th, you're going to have a screening of a documentary that you've recently produced. And it really gets into the nitty-gritty of what you experienced over the summer, having served over 50 days in incarceration. Jason, if you would, for those who aren't familiar with your story, explain what it is and what this documentary is all about.
Yeah, just in brief, we'll say that as a result of Attorney General Letitia James' lawfare, I spent 53 days of intermittent incarceration, weekend jail behind bars over 53 days. This documentary that we've done really tells the story of that. It shows how we were targeted by the Attorney General's office. We believe for our pro-life, pro-family views, so not only for political persecution, but also religious persecution, the biblical values that we hold. There is the first screening for this documentary. It's going to be on Thursday, November 6th. It's going to be at Berean Bible Church, the Bainbridge campus, though. Okay. So we're looking forward to that on Thursday, November 6th. And then we're looking forward to going around the state and talking more about this story.
Yeah, I've had a chance to see bits of it, Jason. I can't wait to see the whole thing. Do you have a release date yet for the whole thing, or has that still not been determined?
We are going to be releasing it in screenings around the state, and then at a later time there'll be a more public release on a website. We want to give people the chance to come to some of those screenings first.
Gotcha. All right. If you want to know more about that and what's happening next week, Jason, you have a wonderful website where folks can go check you out. What is that, if you would?
NewYorkFamilies.org.
At Election Day fast approaching, Tuesday, be an informed voter when you go and cast your ballot. Michael, where can folks find those online voter forms that you've got?
That is pafamilyvoter.com.
All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. Capital Connection, the name of the program. It comes your way every Friday during the Noon Report or online anytime at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The area of low pressure that has brought much of the region a soaking rain is moving across northern New England now, and in its wake, gusty winds, residual showers, and chilly air will prevail into tonight. As that system pulls farther away, the weekend weather will be slowly, marginally improving. In the meantime, it will be chilly and blustery this afternoon into tonight with plenty of clouds and some showers. Temperatures this afternoon in the 40s and near 50, dropping into the 30s and near 40 tonight. Tomorrow, clouds, a few breaks of sun, a couple of scattered showers, still a chill, mid-40s to low 50s. Sunday, clouds and some sun at times with high temperatures in the lower 50s.
All right, Kevin, great work at the Weather Center. And finally today, don't forget to fall back this weekend. Set those clocks back 1 hour before you go to bed Saturday night, or else you're going to be out of sync with everyone else come Sunday. Now, this time change is a time-honored tradition that celebrates the end of daylight saving time. It goes all the way back to World War I. The Uniform Time Act of 1966 standardized the practice. Further extensions were made in 1974 and then again in 2005. Two states, by the way, Hawaii and Arizona, do not observe the time change. And the upside, of course, we all know this, an extra hour of sleep this weekend. And that's our world, the world we live in. Friday, October 31st. I'm Bob Price, Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at FamilyLife.org.